Hey, what is going on, guys? Worst Trends here. Gotta say, I love the Wimpy Kid books. I mean, a lot of them are pretty bad, but I still pick them up every year because, I mean, they're still pretty good every once in a while. So I thought we'll do a quick video and I'll just rank each one of them.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Double Down, is one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. I'm not joking. So, you know, like Long Haul and Old School got pretty crazy near the end. And I feel like Jeff Kinney wanted to go back to his roots with Double Down and make a book similar to the first few. Except, he apparently doesn't know how to write those anymore, because this sucks. Like, every joke in this book is a silly poopy fart joke, and that's just stupid. There's so many plot lines that just go absolutely nowhere, and the ones that do go somewhere are stupid. Like, there's this whole balloon thing with some random kid he meets, and he gets a jar of candy corn. The climax of the entire plot line is that the pig throws up after eating the candy corn. I kid you not, there is a plot line in this book that starts and ends within the same 3 pages. Like, just nothing happens. And the climax of the book, all the way at the end here, they make a movie with gummy worms, and it's just so stupid. Like, of course it wasn't gonna work out. And then Relly ends up being, like, on a talk show. Like, what? This is so stupid. I can't express right now, since I'm not scripting this video, I can't express how much I hate this book right now. Because I actually didn't read it. But just, like, every joke falls flat, nothing interesting happens. It's just the most generic thing ever. Next.
I've been shot! Oh, my brains! My beautiful brains!
Roderick, you have been shot!
Alright, so this one really shouldn't count, but we have, Movie Diary for the Long Haul. Obviously, the Long Haul sucks. And, I read this whole book, and it's boring, really. I'm just not all that interested in, movie making. So I was bored reading this whole thing. I almost gave up reading through it all. And the thing is, like, it makes me feel so bad because the people who did, like, the art and, like, all the designs, like, put in so much work. Like, let me try to find one of the pages here. Like, they literally constructed an entire restaurant for this movie. They built Corny's. They built this ball pit, all these things here, the booths, all that. The art directors, and, like, they put so much work into this movie, and it looks amazing, but the movie's terrible. They wasted all of their stuff. And you know what the worst part is? This book starts with a Double Down reference. That's bad.
I'm the one who terrorized those kids.
Alright, next up is the regular Movie Diary. This is actually only the one for the first book and not the second, or the first movie, not the second and third. But it's the same. I really don't have anything to say about it that I didn't just already say about the other one. But, I mean, at least it's for a good movie this time. But it's just not something that interests me.
Do it! Just do it!
Next is the Do-It-Yourself book. This also shouldn't count, but I mean, it's alright, I guess. I don't know, dude. I really shouldn't have included this, but whatever, I have it, I guess.
Everything is awesome.
Next up is the first of the 3 Rowley books, and it's just kind of boring. It's just like, I mean, nothing really happens that we haven't already seen before. The only difference is that this time it's from Rowley's perspective. Kind of generic stuff you would expect, like, Greg does something mean to Rowley. Rowley's like, hey, that's me, and Greg goes, oh, no, it's not. Like, it's just, like, kind of boring. Like, you can expect everything that happens in this book, and, like, stuff goes on for way too long. Like this single scene where they're studying goes on for, like, 20-30 pages. It just does not stop. And also, I actually do want to point out, people get mad that, the Good Boy Awards are in Rowley's style and not Greg's, because if Greg's drawing them, then they should be in Greg's style. Well, no, because Rowley is recreating the awards in his diary. He's drawing it out as it looked when Greg gave it to him. He's not cutting it out and taping it in. This was drawn on here by Rowley for Rowley. He made this, he drew it in to recreate what Greg gave him. Calm down, guys. Jeff Kinney thought this through.
Adventure time! Come on, grab your friends.
Alright, next up we got Awesome Friendly Adventure. 50% of this book is actually pretty good. Like, the actual adventure, I kind of enjoy it quite a bit. I mean, it's like kind of a generic fantasy thing, but I mean, sometimes there's a good twist here and there, and it's actually a solid story. But the thing that sucks about it is whenever they go back to Greg and Rowley in the real world, and all Greg talks about is money, how he wants to get the money, he wants to sell toys to get money. It's just the same thing every time. There's like, how many chapters in this book? There's like 10 or so chapters in this book, and after each chapter, there's like 5 pages worth of Greg just wanting to sell stuff, and it just gets old really, really fast, and it just brings down the entire book. Like, if the whole Greg and Rowley making money part wasn't there, this would be a whole lot higher, because I actually enjoyed the story quite a bit. And then, ending off all 3 Rowley books, we have Awesome Friendly Spooky Stories, and this one's the best, but if they ever do a Rowley book again, this is probably the best way to do it. Just like anthology series. I mean, none of the stories are groundbreaking. They're okay, but really just don't have much to say. It's a pretty generic book. And I think it's probably a good thing that they end off the Rowley stories, because they're really not doing much with them.
Boom! You got shroomed! That's how Digby do it!
Finally getting back to a real Wimpy Kid book, we have probably my most controversial take in this video, The Long Haul. I don't like The Long Haul, because like, the entire book, the family's having a hard time. They just want to enjoy their vacation. Like, Frank's taking off his days at work, or he's not even, he's like risking his job to do this. It's just not a good time, because at every turn, the family's having a terrible time, and that's just not funny to me. Like, I just feel bad for them, because even though, like, they're kind of horrible people, like, it's just sad, because, like, they cannot catch a break. They're happy for, like, 2 pages when they get, like, the apple pie. But, I don't know, dude. And it ends with the key to the hotel. It's just, like, it's the worst out of the, road trip books. Because at least the other 2 do something kind of unique. Like, this is what you'd expect, like, they're on a road trip and stuff happens. I just feel bad, dude. It just doesn't make me laugh at all. I just feel bad for them.
Oh, I will go deep end.
Now, the deep end is a little better, but not by much. So this one is actually pretty unique. They go to a trailer park and they're on an island, which is actually a nice change of setting, even though it is another road trip story. But the thing is, like, I can't talk about this book without bringing up the absolutely absurd ending. Like, they are floating on an RV and on a river, and it snaps right in place onto a broken bridge where everyone drives off the island onto it. Every single shred of realism left in this series is gone after this book. Absolutely everything. There is nothing left that remotely looks like the first 6 books. Like, you could argue that stuff was, like, somewhat realistic all the way up until Wrecking Ball, but this is the straw that broke the camel's back. It is just absolutely absurd. But, like, the ending really brings it down, because I didn't hate, like, the actual other camping stuff. Like, when they're out camping and they're telling the story, that was pretty nice. At the beginning, they're talking about being stuck in Grandma's house and they're not allowed to leave. That's actually, like, a good way to bring up the coronavirus. Because, you know, obviously, I'm glad they didn't actually bring it up by name, but still something similar, like they can't leave their house because Grandma doesn't want them to see their friends or whatever. So it's actually, the beginning's pretty solid, and the middle isn't terrible. But once they actually get to the park, there's all these kids that you don't really care about, who are just like jerks for no reason. And it just, the ending is just absolutely absurd. It is nice though. They do actually get a really happy ending when they are alone in the entire island. So I guess that's actually pretty nice, but what happened before it, this whole thing right here, absolutely absurd. I mean, I guess it's not terrible, but it kind of is. The ending really brings it down. Like, if it just stuck with the camping aspect, I think it could have been a whole lot better. A whole lot better.
Get away, get away, get away.
remind myself, don't look back.
Next up is The Getaway. Could you imagine I own 3 copies of a book I don't even like? So basically, I had the softcover book and I wanted the hardcover book when I was reading through them all a few years back. So I ordered the hardcover off of eBay. But then when I got it, it's the British version. You guys know what I think about the British, right? So I'm thinking, alright, whatever, it's fine. It's got like a cool bag with all the books, and it's got the puffin or whatever. But then you set it up next to the other books, and it's shorter and thinner. Like, look at that, it just does not look good on a shelf. I don't know if you can really see, but it just doesn't look good. So I went on eBay again, and I made sure to buy the full American version so it actually looked good on the shelf. So I have 3 copies of The Getaway. Now let me tell you why this book isn't good. The Getaway is just like The Deep End and Long Haul. It's another road trip story, except this one's actually kind of interesting because they're in like the Caribbean or whatever. And there's actually, it's a unique setting, once again. And I like the beginning when they're like, trying to get to the airport in time. That one's kind of nice. But once again, it just falls flat in the ending. Like, I was actually having a kind of alright time throughout the whole thing. It was nice to see them actually not having a terrible time at every turn. Except for Frank, I guess, because he got poisoned. But it was actually a solid book. There's ups and downs. And the spider bit was actually pretty funny. I liked that. But then the ending. Like, they steal another family. Like, alright. So, it just looks like they're out of hope, right? Until finally, they find all of the clothes they need out of a suitcase that they got. At the airport, they got the wrong suitcase, but it had a lock on it. So they don't have any of their clothes, but they do have someone else's clothes. So it looks like they can't go to eat anywhere. The only place they could go is the clubhouse, and they don't have nice enough clothes to go there. But then they break open the suitcase, and they get the nice clothes. And they go in, they have a good time. They even go have golf. They have a great family time. Everyone's happy. Like, and this just seems like the perfect ending. Like, they had a terrible time throughout all of this, but it was all worth it because they all became really close. They bonded over everything. After everything that happened, they had a great time. But then they just don't stick the landing. Of course, the other family sees them with their clothes, which, like, seriously, like, what are the odds of that? They see them exactly the moment when they're wearing their clothes, and they somehow notice that. And then they get kicked out of the resort, but like, just as you think it's over, like, alright, whatever, it's just make it end, they go back, they sneak in. Look at this, look how degrading this is. If you are a family and you are sneaking back into a resort you were kicked out of, and you go back, all for what? They get a picture, they steal other people's food that they were already eating. Once again, that's just sad. And once again, they see the family. It's just absurd. I cannot believe, like, this is probably one of the saddest endings, just because of, like, how far the family goes. Like, because they could have ended it so well if they just had a good time and left after they broke open the suitcase. But, like, it's just had to get ruined. Like, next up is the newest book in the series, Diaper Overload. I know people have been asking for a Roderick book for a very long time, but something you guys forgot is that Roderick has been flanderized, okay? Over the years, he went from, in the first few books, he was actually pretty smart. He pretended to be dumb so he wouldn't have to do things he didn't want to do. I mean, the movie shows that great. But, like, over the years, he's just become stupid. And now this entire book is focusing on stupid Roderick and his bandmates that you don't care about. I mean, I guess I care about Bill, but I don't care about the other two. And there's a Five Nights at Freddy's reference. I did like that. That was kind of funny. But it's just like, Greg is like not even in half the pages, but this is still his diary. So like, I know Jeff Kinney wanted to make a Roderick book without trying to find a way why because Roderick wouldn't write a diary. That just wouldn't work. Unlike Rowley, that makes sense. But so it still has to be a Greg book, but it has to be all about Roderick. But because of that, there's so many things that happen that Greg isn't there for. And it's like, why would he be documenting Roderick's life now when he still has his life to talk about just randomly? Like, it just doesn't really make sense, like, thematically, and like in universe it doesn't really make sense. And then when Greg is there, he like barely does anything. He's just in the background, just reacting to everything. And the entire twist that like everyone they ran into was part of the old band is like kind of dumb, honestly. It's just like stupid characters doing stupid things over and over again. There's a Mr. Beast challenge they do. I do like how Jeff Kinney tried to do something a little bit more different this time, because like diaper overload, that's not very marketable to just general audiences. The only people who understand what that means are people who've read the books before. Like, no one, this isn't gonna be anyone's first Wimpy Kid book. So I like how he's like, alright, we've got 275 million books sold, I can afford to do something a little bit more creative this time. And I do like how he did that, but it's just like, I feel like Roderick is just not a good character anymore. Because he's just a jerk and he's stupid. But he's not even much of a jerk anymore because he's just too stupid to be a jerk.
Magic 8 Ball, I'm bored. Should I sniff my coworker's hair?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid, hard luck. This is the line that we're about to cross. We are going from the bad books to the good ones. This is the one right in the middle that's fine. So the first 8 books in this series are the only ones I'd say are like remotely realistic. All that goes downhill when we get to Long Haul. But Hard Luck is fine. It's just kind of like everything we've seen so far, except it's exaggerated now. So Greg becomes friends with Fregley, and that doesn't last at all. He finds a magic 8 ball, and that like dictates his life. And like, is Greg that stupid where he just follows a magic 8 ball just blindly for weeks on end? Like, I don't know. Like, I know he's not the smartest guy, but like, really? I do like the whole family feud, though, I guess you could say, with the egg. I do like how he finds it at the end. I think that the diamond ring that Greg has at the end, that could definitely be used for the Wimpy Kid finale. I think that would definitely be a really good thing. I could make a whole video about what I think the best finale for Wimpy Kid would be, but so if you guys would like to see that, then I guess let me know, because I'd have fun making that. But yeah, this is just kind of everything we've seen before, nothing groundbreaking or anything. Really, there is not much to say about this book. It's just kind of whatever. Hard luck, everyone.
F to the I to the M to the P.
Now we get to Third Wheel, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of Third Wheel. A lot of people say like, oh, Greg's a simp or whatever. Like, is he though? Like, Greg has been like chasing girls for like the entire series. Like, Dog Days especially. Like, one of his biggest driving forces was to get with Holly in the summer. And it's just when that's the focus that everyone has a problem with it. Like, does he really act that out of character in this book? Like, really, most of the book isn't even about the dance all the way up until like halfway through. And even then, like, of course he's gonna try to find a girlfriend in this book, but like, cause that's just like kind of a natural thing that's going on. And I like Uncle Gary in this book. The finale is actually, I like when the old people come in, that was kind of funny. But the finale with the chicken pox is just kind of stupid. I don't know, it just doesn't really end that well. And like, there's a really weird note at the end. So at the very end of the book it says, plus I get a little lonely being by myself all day, or at least I think I'm alone. Today I had a fresh towel next to the tub, and when I opened my eyes, it was gone. So either somebody's messing with me or Johnny Cheddar is at it again. And Johnny Cheddar is Manny's imaginary friend. So like, they just kind of like bring in some random supernatural element at the end for no reason. It's just why? Like, actually why? I don't understand. But I mean, it's alright. It's kind of like, this is the start of the flanderization of this entire series, where everything becomes more simple, more action-packed, less realistic. But it's still pretty solid.
I came in like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love.
Wrecking Ball does not get enough love, alright? I actually really like Wrecking Ball. All the way up until the end. I like how Greg, like, this book could very well have been a really good finale to the series. Like, it feels like the culmination of everything. Like, they're building on the extension on the house, and then they're just like, let's move. And it feels like at this point, we're 14 books in, everything's ran its course. Like, and, like, we have some good hijinks in the beginning with the yard sale. Then going through, we got, they're having trouble building the house, or whatever. Okay, Manny builds his own house, which is stupid, but it really feels like this is the end. Like, when you get to the last, like, sixth of the book, it really feels like this is gonna be it. Like, they have that final ending party. Rowley's really sad, and I can't talk about this without bringing up the scene where Rowley gives him the big mural of all their time together, and they actually hug and cry. Like, that's just like, this feels like the finale. Does it not feel like the finale? Everything's come together. Greg has finally opened up, and he's really gonna miss Rowley. Mr. Jefferson gets to get rid of Greg finally. Roderick gets to play his band in front of hundreds of people. Everyone finally, after hating the Heffleys for years, everyone can finally come together, have one great party before they go, and everyone just has a great time. Even Mr. Jefferson, who hates the family, is having a good time here. Roderick plays, Greg and Rowley are sad. Like, this feels like the ending. But, like, once again, they could not stick the landing. Because, of course, they couldn't end it here. They have to keep going. And that's when everything goes wrong, when they realize they need to start packing earlier, and everything gets destroyed, and people throw away their stuff, and they end up staying home. This could have been such a good finale. Greg moves on with his life. He realizes how much he's actually gonna miss Rowley, and he reflects on how much of a jerk he's been, and he realizes, I should be a better person. I'm done writing diaries. I need to focus on what really matters, the people around me. And, like, that could be contrived, but, like, really? Isn't that all okay in favor for a good finale? Like, it's actually a really solid book. I enjoyed it quite a lot all the way up until the end. And then it just gets really, really good, only for it to get one of the worst endings of any book. And that really makes me sad, because this one could have been, like, top 5 or 6. I don't know.
What bizarre act is the canine performing?
Next up, we got Dog Days. This one's actually really good. I don't like the part when Greg goes with Rowley up to the cabin or whatever. Because, like, he's just a jerk there, and it's, like, cringe, you know? I don't really like using that word, but it's just like, oh, why would he do that? He calls the cops. He just makes it worse for himself. Like, this is probably peak Greg in this book. Like, he's just an absolutely terrible person, and he deserves everything that comes to him. But, like, he's still a bad person, and that's what brings it down, because I know that he's supposed to be terrible, but, like, this is kind of crossing the line for me. This used to be my second favorite book in the series, but Greg is just probably the meanest in this book than in any other book, and I feel like he doesn't get his comeuppance that much. Like, I feel like he deserved more for everything he did. But it's still a pretty solid book if you ignore that. But Dog Days, it's pretty solid. Next up, we have Roderick Rules, and this one's pretty standard. I mean, like, you got the first book, and this is just like an extension off of that. This is the Skylanders Giants of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. It's just exactly what you've seen before, just focusing on one aspect from the last book. This time it's Roderick. It's got a lot more Roderick in it. This is a way better Roderick book than the Diaper Overload. It's actually got a lot of good jokes. The thing is with these early books is that they're hard to talk about because like they feel like real diaries. Like there's no like plot line going through the entire books. Like you got the deep end where like obviously they're at the island the whole time. But this one, like these early books are harder to talk about because there's like specific moments and not like an entire overarching story. So sorry that I'm not really talking about these earlier books as much. Like Dog Days I didn't really talk much about. But this one's just a solid book. I mean, I like Roderick in this book. The ending is actually pretty funny. I do like the ending. It's a happy ending. But dude, that movie is genuinely really good. Diary of a Wimpy Kid Roderick Rules movie might be one of my top 10 movies, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It is just genuinely a really good movie. I'd definitely watch it if I were you.
Good God, man! You almost got the cheese touch.
Following up quickly, we have the original, and once again, it's kind of hard to talk about because it's just so like not much happens. I mean, a lot happens, but it's like no overarching story. So, I mean, it's just a really good book. I like the fight, the safety patrol. I mean, everything that goes on it's good. It's just kind of harder to talk about because I don't want to talk about each individual moment. I mean, it's just like this one feels probably the most like an actual diary. Like just he's writing things that happened to him, and it's just good.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid is a pop culture icon, and it's created the living god, Jeff Kinney, who we all look up to and praise every single day.
Ugly Truth, once again, could have been a very good finale, just like Wrecking Ball. I'm glad they kept going because most of my favorite books are after this point, so I'm glad they didn't end it here, but it could have been a good ending. It's a really solid book throughout, and the ending where Greg, like it really feels like Greg's got to grow up and leave middle school. And I feel like it could have been a solid finale, not the best, but it could have worked. It's a solid book.
This is the last and final straw, so take my hand, man.
Next is The Last Straw, which could have been also a pretty good finale. I mean, it's a trilogy. It literally ends with the words, "The End." It's an ambiguous ending. I feel like it could have been a pretty solid finale. Once again, I'm glad it kept going, but it is funny how they released Dog Days within the same year, not even like the next year like usual. Last Straw and Dog Days were the only two books to be released in the same year, and this is the one that has the end at the end of it. It's just a really good book. It's more of the first book in Roderick Rules, but it's just better because it's just funnier jokes, better plot lines, and I do like the ending where Frank is finally proud of his son and he won't send him to military camp. Like, that's just a good ending. Like, in terms of the sheer like groundedness, this is a really good finale. Like, it could have really ended well with this one here, but it didn't, and here we are now with 23 books to talk about. Next up is Big Shot. I was genuinely surprised how good this book was. After reading through Wrecking Ball, which ended terribly, and The Deep End, which is just not a very good book, I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this one. Like, you think this would be about, oh, Greg and his team learn to be the best in the state or whatever, and they have a really good time, but no, they are so bad, they have to go to a loser's tournament. Like, the entire climax of the book is literally them versus another team to not be the worst team in the entire state. Like, that is just, like, that's a good twist on it. Like, there's still stakes, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just did this great giant task. And it ends too, because, like, I like his mom's arc. This is probably the best we've seen Susan since, like, probably Dog Days or Cabin Fever. Like, she's clearly doing this just to live through all the kids on the team, because she played basketball as a kid. And it's just like, she's a jerk. She goes, you're my secret weapon after trading Greg to the other team in the final matchup. Like, insinuating that Greg is the worst one on the team, and she just wants him to sabotage the other team. Like, they literally say that. Like, basically she's saying that, like, so they get to the end, and everyone's screaming at Greg, and this is the moment when Greg realizes that his mom is just doing this for herself, and she doesn't want to actually see Greg succeed, and she's actively rooting against Greg right now as he holds the ball for the buzzer beater shot. And then, so he just throws it backwards, and of course it goes in, which is stupid, but it is something they set up earlier, so I guess I can't give it too much crap, but it's just like, it's pretty satisfying, because even though, like, we are far gone from the first few books, like, self-contained, this is just a really good time. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And, like, I do like how it ends. Greg has a happy ending, but his mom does not. Like, it is actually very subversive, because technically his team is the worst in the state. Greg and Greg alone is only second worst in the state, and that's, like, what makes it good, because it doesn't take itself seriously, but it actually does something with its premise and does something unique. And I just really like that about Big Shot, and I hope No Brainer is similar like that, where you think it's gonna be a generic plot, but is actually better. We'll have to see though.
Back in my day, we only had a word to win.
Coming in at number 3, we have Old School. Just an all-timer book. Everyone forgets about the beginning before they go to Hardscrabble, but it's just a really good time. Roger gets his job. They talk about the future and the past. They do the lemonade stand. The Girl Scouts cleaning out the park. It's just a really good time, and then they get to Hardscrabble Farms, and it's just like everything is building and building. Like, everyone is like eating deodorant to escape, and like you can tell this is a terrible time. But like, this is actually, I kind of like this better because Greg's having a terrible time, not because he's a jerk, but because he's just in a bad situation, and I like that better. Even though Greg is become less mean over time, I guess that is kind of more flanderization, but it is just, I prefer not have horrible protagonists. But yeah, he uses his grandpa's book as the good, to start fires. Everything's looking up. Then of course everything goes bad when it rains. But similar to Big Shot, Greg does get a happy ending, because he finds the shed that his dad used, and it's got really nice, and they use that. And he has the story of Silas Scratch live on as he drives away, and that is just, it just comes around. It's just a really good book. I mean, it is kind of more similar to the first 8 books than it is long haul, because it really only gets kind of like the long haul during the last half, because the first half is pretty similar to the first few books, and the last half is more like the long haul, but it does it way better than the long haul because just the situation and the setting are more interesting.
The flavors are melting on my tongue!
Number 2, we have The Meltdown. It is a very good book. I mean, it is not realistic in the slightest, but at this point, who cares, honestly? Like, with all the snow and the giant snowball war at the end it's stupid. But I mean, it's actually pretty climactic, and how it ends with everyone banding together to fight against the Mingos or whatever, and it just comes an all-out brawl by the end. It's dumb, don't get me wrong, it is getting close to deep end levels of stupidness, but at least this could happen. Theoretically, this book could take place. Deep end could not. I mean, it's just like everything they set up comes in at the end, but not just like Double Down. They set up everything and it comes in at the end, and by the end it means like the last 3-4 pages of the book. This, the entire final scene, is actually a pretty solid chunk of the book where they bring everything back that they talked about beforehand. And it's a good fight, like, I'm invested in the fight, and everything, it's just good. I mean, it doesn't really focus on Greg, it's more about, like, what's going on around him, which I've said is something I don't really like, but don't know, dude. It's just written well. And you have to point out the scene where, this right here. The absolute chaos on the scene. This, I really like this page, because there's no words, it's just action. And man, we've never seen something before or after this that's just like that. I think it's cool. Alright, now I'm going to pretend like you don't know there's only one book left. In number 1 we have Cabin Fever. Absolutely iconic. This book is just everything good about the first 5 and the next 4. It's got, for the first like 2/3 of the book, you got that regular Wimpy Kid style, coming in the last third when they're stuck in the house. Greg has a good ending in this one. But he's not out of character. He still tells everyone he shoveled the driveway or whatever. There's just good plot lines. I like the how they get snowed in. That seems to be, everyone talks about how they get snowed in, but there's a lot more to the book than that. Like there's just flipping through it right now. They got the drummies, the comic expo when they go. Greg gets the book. He's got the newspaper. They got when they accidentally vandalize the school, when Greg and Roderick trying to take the homeless lady to the store. There is actually it's a very good time. I mean, it's just very good. How everything is just like those first 5 Wimpy Kid books, but it's just higher quality writing. And you even get that, like Frank has a good time in the hotel. And, it's just very, very good. And I can't talk about this book without bringing up Manny. This book has the most Manny out of any other book, and alright, we gotta talk about this. We're done with this one right here. So the next book in this series is going to be number 18, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, No Brainer, and I think it could be alright. It's gonna, in a similar vein to Big Shot, like I said before, where it's either going to be generic or it's going to do something unique like Big Shot did. Hopefully it does something more unique. It's supposed to be about Greg trying to save his school from getting shut down because they're stupid or something. Which it does sound pretty dumb, but I don't know. Big Shot sounded dumb and I really like that one. It came out as my number 4. But I do think it's time for the series to start winding down. I do think he should end it at 20. I mean, really think about it. This series has been going on for so long. Hard Luck came out 10 years ago. And that's only the 8th book in the series. 10 years ago. Like that, it's been going on for a very long time. The thing is though, like, I don't know if Jeff Kinney's gonna stop. They really should stop it at 20 though. Get a nice even round number, and I feel like you could really get something done. Book 19 should be Manny Rules. I know it's a joke, but like, we really haven't seen Manny in full force since Cabin Fever, and he's barely even done much since. And I know people hate Manny, but like, it needs to be addressed. We need a full book on Greg's frustrations with Manny Rules, and how just big climactic ending where like his parents finally like punish Manny for once, and that's the ending. Like they're like, alright, that's it, Manny, time out for half an hour, and like that's the big finale. But like it's huge because Manny's never gotten punished before. I don't know, but I do think Manny Rules could actually be very good as the 19th book in the series. And then 20th book has got to be the big finale, bring everything back from all 19 books for one final hurrah before it all ends. I can make a video about my perfect finale, and I know I probably will, but that's it. Counted through, I believe, 23 books. So, yeah. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone, and, alright, everyone, thanks for watching, and, if you like Double Down,